This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Hey, yo! Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome, you are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where I break down all 32 teams and their respective drafts after looking at what they have accomplished through their picks. I give them a grade using our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts in the draft wrap-up series, as we cannot tell how these players will pan out. Don't want to count any of these players out. Don't want to discount them before they get their chance in the National Football League. After getting a grade for each and every single pick, we get an aggregate score, divide by the number of picks, and that's how you get your final score for each and every single team in this process. Up next, St. Louis Rams, and they've had a very active offseason, to say the least. New quarterback out with Sam Bradford, in with Nicholas Foles. Let's see what they do to complement that move in the offseason. And so let me say this real quick, and then we're going to jump into this. The Rams fan base, of all the fan bases that I have the pleasure of talking with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, I think I have the most fun. I think I've probably the most respect, of course, outside of the Redskin fan base, with the St. Louis Rams fans. I have a great rapport with them. And the thing I love about the Rams fans is that they understand their team. That's number one. Number two, they have a sense of who they are. You don't get a lot of Rams fans that have over-the-top expectations for their team. They're realists. I love talking to fans that get it. They understand. And with no other fan base do I have more of those fans that understand what their team is, what their team needs are, how their team needs to address some of the weaknesses in the offseason, and what the expectations should be for the team moving forward. I get a lot of Rams fans that say, hey man, I just want to get over 500. And I mean, I love when fans are realistic. I mean, I get a Raiders fan that'll just come out of the blue. Hey, Raiders gonna win the Super Bowl this year. How about you get a winning record first, then make the postseason, then you can talk to me about winning a Super Bowl. And I don't get that with the Rams fans. They're real, they're direct, and I have great banter back and forth with them. So Rams fans out there, I love you guys. You guys are among my favorites to talk to because you guys get it. With that being said, let's talk about your 2015 NFL Draft. We start in the first round. Running back out of Georgia, 10th overall selection, Todd Gurley. Wowzers, okay? Wowzers, wowzers, wowzers. Did not see this one coming. As a matter of fact, this is how much I was blindsided by this pick. Take a look. What won't they do at 10? Take a running back. Why? You got Trey Mason. I like Trey Mason. Did you not like what Trey Mason did last year? I like Benny Cunningham. And if you want to get a running back, get one later on. There's plenty of guys that can help complement what you already got. You don't need an elite back. You don't need to do that at 10. You got stuff already. Don't take a running back. I don't see the Rams taking a back at 10, even though I've heard Gurley chirping in my ear at 10 to the Rams. I don't see the Rams pulling the trigger on that. So as you can see, I definitely didn't think the Rams would go in this direction, but they did. And I want to say that this pick right here for me set the tone for this entire draft that the Rams had, because what this, and I said this on the actual video that I broke down this pick as it happened real time. I said that the draft just got real, and the Rams, they just pretty much set the table for what they're going to do and how they're going to handle business and conduct it moving forward. This was a divisional pick right here. If I've ever seen one, this was a pick that screamed to me, hey, the 49ers, they win a certain way in this division. The Seahawks, they win a certain way in this division. It's with defense, it's with running the football, and we're going to follow suit. They got the defensive part on lock, okay? The Rams don't have a problem defensively. They have a problem offensively. That's where the problems lie. They're so inconsistent. One week, they're scoring 52 points and shutting out the Raiders. The next week, they're scoring 24 and shutting out the Redskins. And then the next week, they're struggling to score against the Arizona Cardinals with a chance to really do some serious damage. So you just don't know what you're getting from the Rams from week to week to week to week. So this is a team that said, hey, we're going to follow the blueprint that's been set in this division by the 49ers first, then followed by the Seahawks and enhanced to the tune of a Super Bowl, 2 consecutive Super Bowl appearances. And I'm going to follow that blueprint too, as well as what the St. Louis Rams are saying. We're going to follow this blueprint all the way to the playoffs and beyond. And so getting a guy like Todd Gurley, when, look, I thought that the Rams were set at running back. I liked your running back situation, as you saw earlier. I liked the situation you had going on with Trey Mason and Benny Cunningham, and even Zach Stacy, who got little to no carries, was still there. And if you needed him, you could always pull him out of your back pocket and use him. I thought you had a stable of backs that was more than good enough to get you going where you were trying to head in the NFC West, but you thought otherwise. You went out and got potentially the best back we've seen since Adrian Peterson. And so if he's up, look, I'll say this and we're moving on because I've already broken down Todd Gurley. I'm not going to do it again. I'll say this and then we'll move on. I don't know Todd Gurley post ACL tear. I know Todd Gurley pre ACL tear. The pre-ACL tear Todd Gurley was a man. Don't call him Gurley because he was all man. Now, if he comes back and he's that guy that I saw at Georgia, running over guys, jumping over guys, and just being a load to bring down, to catch it out of the backfield, do whatever you need him to do. If he's that guy for the St. Louis Rams and is able to stay healthy, he's going to be the best back we've seen come into the league out of the NFL draft since one Adrian Peterson. That's a lofty statement, but I think he's got everything you're looking for if he comes back. Pre-injury, Todd Gurley. You know what this is. Go ahead and load it up. You can put it on the board. Yes! It's a home run. The first round for the St. Louis Rams. 10th overall selection, first round, running back out of Georgia, Todd Gurley is a home run for the St. Louis Rams. You move on to the second round. And I talked about the statement that first pick Todd Gurley made. Well, this second pick and the subsequent picks down the road hammered that point home that the Rams aren't playing around. Second round, 57th selection overall. Remember, Rams traded back in the second round with the Carolina Panthers, allowed the Panthers to come up, get Devin Funchess. They move back, pick up a boatload of picks. I told you Trey Les is a baller at draft time, and he did another one of those switcheroos. Picked up a couple of picks. We'll talk about those later on. But in the second round, 57th overall from the Panthers, offensive tackle out of Wisconsin, Rob Havenstein is the selection. And let's talk about Rob Havenstein and why this is a big pickup for the St. Louis Rams in the second round. His pros, 6'7", 321-pound man. This is a big mammoth man, long arms, gets the job done. Mirrors well for his size. That's the next pro. This is a guy that, you know the drill you see at the combine? They're supposed to have their hands behind their back or have them down but not touch the guy in front of them. Just shadow him. Just move. Wherever he goes, you go. Yeah, he does that extremely well. Except he actually gets to use his hands when he does it. And he does a hell of a job staying in front of the guy that's trying to get to the quarterback. His length makes up for speed. You've probably heard me say that before with other guys with extremely long arms. Add Rob Havenstein to the mix as guys who have the ability to get beat initially off the snap with speed, but make up for it with extremely long arms to help push that defender around the quarterback's pocket and allow the quarterback to step up and deliver the football. He can be beaten off the line of scrimmage with speed, but because he's such a big man at 6'7", and his length, his arms actually match his height. He's not one of these guys that's 6'6", but has short arms. His arms are long, they match his height, and he's able to use his arms, extend them out, push that defender around the quarterback and allow him to step up. He's a terror in the run game, is Rob Havenstein. He's the guy that's going to open up holes. He does his job. It does it to the best of his abilities. I love the fact that the next pro, let's go ahead and lump these two in together, plays to his strengths. He knows he's not the most athletic cat on the block. So he's not going to try to outrun anybody. He's not going to try to do something outside of what he has in his tool belt. He's going to do all the little things, and he's going to do them well. He's going to use every trick in the book. He's not going to waste any motion. I love the way he attacks in the run game. That to me is one of his biggest assets, is his ability to get it done in the run game. When you're blocking for Melvin Gordon, and he has over 300 yards, close to 400 yards and 3/4 of work, when you help a team put up damn near 500 yards of rush offensive run game, you get it done. And a lot of those runs were right behind Rob Havenstein on that right side of that Wisconsin line versus Nebraska when that rushing attack went bananas. And so when you have a dominant run game like Wisconsin did, it's not an accident that you got guys like Rob Havenstein being selected high in the draft and getting the job done. And that's what Rob Havenstein did at Wisconsin, and that's what the Rams are excited about and why they made him their second-round selection. Consistency. Guy played in 54 collegiate games, started 41 consecutive games at right tackle for the Wisconsin Badgers. So you're getting a guy that stays healthy, something you haven't been able to do at the tackle positions, whether it's been Jake Long or it's Roger Saffold. You've had a bunch of injuries along your offensive line. You're getting a guy that is extremely durable. Consistency is the name of the game in the National Football League. Who can stay healthiest the longest is usually the teams that hang around at the end and get the job done. You go to his cons. Limited athleticism. I've already touched on this briefly. He's not a guy that's going to go outside of what he can do. So I love the fact that even though he's limited athletically, he's not going to really see that be a huge problem at the next level because he knows his limitations and he does whatever he needs to do to get the job done. And so as long as you don't put this guy in compromising positions, you don't ask this guy to go do something that he's not comfortable doing, he's going to be fine. He'll get the job done, and his athleticism, albeit limited, won't come into play as often. And again, when you have length like he does, it makes up for having less athleticism. His ceiling and his floor are one and the same. To me, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. More bad than good, okay? The good thing about this is you're getting a football player that's going to help you, and I think help you right away. He's not going to be given the right tackle job. He's going to have to compete for it. But I think he can win it day one, be your starter, and you'll be pleased with what you get from Rob Havenstein. The question is he going to get any better? I think you're getting a polished product right now. There are some things he can fine-tune, and he's going to have to at the next level because he's going to see better athletes than he did at Wisconsin in the Big Ten. But I'll tell you this much, I don't see this guy getting tremendously better. His ceiling is here and his floor is right here. They're right next to each other, and so you're getting a damn good football player. Don't know if he's going to grow into anything great and elite. He's not going to turn into Orlando Pace for you, but I tell you what, he can be a really good right tackle for you and something that you can hang your hat on week in and week out, knowing that Rob Havenstein is going to be over there starting for you at right tackle. You'll have Greg Robinson at left tackle, and you feel like you've got the building blocks of an elite offensive line moving forward down the road. So I like this pick. I like what he brings to the table. And in the second round, 57th pick overall, Rob Havenstein, tackle out of Wisconsin. For me, it's a triple. Big time pickup for this St. Louis Rams team. They trade back, get some extra picks, and get a guy that they feel like can come in, compete to start at right tackle for their football team. Love the selection, love what they did to trade back and get more picks. So win-win for the St. Louis Rams. It's a triple in the second round. Third round, we move on to the 72nd pick overall, offensive tackle out of Louisville, Jamon Brown. Here's a guy that is big. Start with his pro, 6'4", 323 pounds. He was a tackle at Louisville very effective initial punch. And he's one of these guys that at the beginning of the play stops you dead in your tracks with an initial punch. Boom! Kind of stops that defender right in his tracks, gives him a chance to set himself and really redirect the tackle, or excuse me, the defensive lineman. And really, once you get hit with an initial punch and you get off balance and it stops your rush, unless the quarterback holds on to the football for an extremely long period of time, you're done if you're a defensive lineman rushing trying to get to the quarterback. And so his initial punch thwarts a lot of rushes and does him some good when he's protecting the quarterback. Works great in a phone booth. Here's a guy that, again, much like Rob Havenstein, not the most athletically gifted football player. So when you have a situation where you're not the best running down the field, you don't want this guy running 15, 20 yards. He's not a guy like Chip Kelly likes that can get out on screens and lead you down the field 30 yards, just running with the running back or the wide receiver. You don't want this guy doing that. But in a phone booth, and what I mean by that is in tight quarters, around the line of scrimmage, 2, 3 yards away from the line of scrimmage, this guy is a menace, not only in the run game, but as a pass protector. In a phone booth, you get into a fight, this guy's going to win more times than not. His versatility, though, I think is the one thing that the Rams were enamored with, and I think is why the Rams made him their 3rd round selection. He played tackle at Louisville, like I stated earlier, and his tape was so hard to watch because he was everywhere. In Louisville, they don't have jerseys that are conducive to figuring out whose number is what. And so he was number 79, but one of their tackles was 74 and another one was 70. And so the numbers were all over the place, and you're looking and you're straining your eyes. And like I said, Louisville, they've got dark numbers, their jerseys are dark. It always helped when they wore their white jerseys and were on the road, but when they were home and they were wearing red jerseys or they were wearing black jerseys, it was almost impossible to see where he lined up. And I had to rewind the tape over and over and over just to figure out, okay, which one is he? Is he the left tackle? Is he the right tackle? Because they would move him in series. I mean, literally, one snap, he'd be at right tackle and he'd play there for 3 consecutive plays. And then they flip him over to left tackle. He'd play 4 straight plays there, then go back to right tackle for 2 plays. I mean, it was crazy. So this guy is versatile. So much so that the Rams are looking at him as a guard. He's not going to play tackle for the St. Louis Rams. They're looking at him as a guard, and I think it's an excellent move because I just told you he's a phone booth brawler, type of guy you put in close quarters and allow him to work. And I'll tell you why he's a better fit at guard than at tackle as we move on to his cons. He is limited athletically. I think I've kind of explained that to you with Rob Havenstein. Same deal here. Not a guy that you want running 15 yards down the field. Not a guy that you want doing a lot of things away from the line of scrimmage, although he can get to that second level and get to the next block and get to that linebacker or get to that safety. He can do that. You just don't want him having to do that most often. But I'll tell you this much, and this is the reason why I think he's better suited as a guard. Elite speed poses a problem for him. And unlike Rob Havenstein, who has problem with speed rushers as well, elite speed rushers, not regular ones, not guys with an okay speed, elite speed off the edge gives Rob Havenstein a problem, but he has long arms which helps him combat that. That's not the same case for Jamon Brown, who's 6'4", doesn't have the long arms to match. And so, again, when you're talking about a 6'4" tackle, which is what he was at Louisville, you're not getting the same long arms, you're not getting the vines. That's not going to allow you to rebound if you're beat off the line of scrimmage initially. So he is a guy that is going to be better suited to kick inside the guard, and I think he's going to maul guys, which these next 2 picks after your first one make a lot of sense. You go out, you get a new quarterback, you go and draft a new running back, you're looking to dominate the line of scrimmage. Rams aren't playing around, and Jamon Brown is going to help you do exactly that. In the 3rd round, 72nd pick overall, offensive tackle out of Louisville, or in this case, going to be a guard for the St. Louis Rams. Jamon Brown, for me, is another triple. His tape was pretty clean. Again, they moved him all over the place. I thought he handled himself at tackle. He's a guy that, in a pinch, you need a guy to jump in the game, play some tackle for you. He can kick outside the tackle, and you can feel pretty good about what you're getting. Again, you don't want him to be there necessarily for a very long time, but if need be, in a pinch, you got to shuffle some things around. A couple of injuries happen in the course of the game. Here's a guy that can go from left or right guard, kick outside to right tackle or left tackle in an emergency. So you're getting versatility, you're getting a good football player, you're getting someone that is dominant in the run game, which is what the Rams are looking to be moving forward. So that's a triple for the Rams in the third round. We go to their second third round pick. This is acquired in that Carolina Panthers deal. We're not done with that Panthers deal either, but 89th overall selection in the third round, quarterback out of Oregon State, Sean Mannion, is the pick. And here are his pros. Prototype quarterback size. His body is what you draw it up to be if you're looking for a quarterback. At 6'6", they don't make them like this anymore, folks. You don't see many 6'6" guys come into the league as passers. Right now, we're going through this phase where everybody's 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" at the most. You rarely see 6'5", 6'6" guys that can actually sling it around and have productive careers, but here's a guy that fits that mold. Guts of a burglar is another pro for me. I was watching the Utah game and I'm like, dude, don't throw that. What are you doing? What are you doing? He's rolling out. They're in the red zone. You know you got to take care of the football when you're in the red zone. He's going across his body, so he's rolling out to the left. He's a right-handed quarterback. And he decides to rifle the football in the back of the end zone to his big target as a tight end. There's double coverage. And this is not a good decision. It really isn't. But he fits it in there, throws it up where only the tight end really had a great shot at getting the football. And he caught it, came down with it in the back of the end zone. It's a touchdown. His guts of a burglar can benefit him. It can also be a detriment. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Adequate arm strength. That's another reason why sometimes having those guts as a burglar isn't the best thing in the world, because he didn't have a Brett Favre arm. He didn't have a Joe Flacco arm. He didn't have a Colin Kaepernick rifle or cannon. He didn't have a Cam Newton gun. He's got a solid, adequate arm. It can get there, but again, you want to take risks the way he does, you need to have a piping, smoking, hot gun. And that's not what he's doing. His football doesn't have hot sauce to go on it. He's just got a solid, adequate arm, which is fine. He gets it there, but if you're going to have guts of a burglar, you got to make sure you put some extra steam on it. Don't know if he has that extra gear or not. Can throw with touch. That's something that I love in quarterbacks. There are certain guys that don't understand touch. You don't see a lot of touch from Colin Kaepernick. You don't see a lot of touch from Cam Newton. You want to see touch from guys and finesse to be able to throw the football down the field, put some air under it, allow your guy to run under the football. And so he does that beautifully, can throw with, when he's on, his touch, second to none in this draft. Playing in a pro-style offense, that's something that gets overlooked. And I know a lot of times we make a lot of guys playing in the spread and how will they make the adjustment. We talk about footwork. We talk about being under center. We talk about verbiage in the huddle and spitting out plays. We talk about a lot of things that at the end of the day may not make a lot of difference. The team is going to take a guy off of his tape and what they feel, and sitting down and talking to him and getting a good feel and a vibe from him. Can he do it? Can't he do it? This is, to me, a big deal. When you play in a pro-style offense, if you don't, hey, we can make do with what you got. We'll try to teach you the nuances of our offense. We'll get past that. But if you're playing it, to me, it's a big plus. It's an added plus for a guy coming out of college that doesn't have to adjust to the verbiage, doesn't have to adjust to a 7-step, 5-step drop. They have done it enough times in college where it becomes a simple situation of muscle memory where they got it. It's not a big deal. He played in a pro-style offense, a lot of 7-step, a lot of 5-step drops, a lot of under the center, a lot of handoffs, a lot of things that you see in the pro game. He did it at Oregon State. So to me, that's another huge plus for Sean Mannion. Now you go to his cons. No mobility whatsoever. Don't ask this guy to run anywhere because he's not. Simple as that. nonchalant drop back. This is the thing that a lot of people are frustrated with Sean Mannion. He's a guy that when he gets from under center, there's not the sense of urgency you would like to see from him. Because again, I just told you his arm strength isn't the best, it isn't the greatest, it's adequate, which to me is fine, but he doesn't have the ability to be able to take his time getting back, get from under center, have a sense of urgency, get rid of the football. And here's the reason why he needs to have more urgency. Throws off his back foot too often. And to me, he throws off of his back foot because of the nonchalant drop back. All of this stuff is interconnected. Because he doesn't get into his drop fast enough, now the pressure is coming. Because the pressure is coming, he feels the need to throw off his back foot. And this leads us to our last con. Because he throws off his back foot, he's erratic, he misses high very often, the ball sails on him very often. He'll be backing up, simple crossing route, got a wide open tight end going across the middle of the field. He throws off of his back foot, it's behind the tight end, it's a drop. Should have been a 7, 8, maybe even a 12-yard completion. Instead, it's incomplete, now it's 3rd and 7. Could have been a first down, could have moved the sticks. Simple play down the field, you got a corner route wide open, instead of you hitting the guy and allowing him to run out of bounds for an 18-yard gain, he airmails it 5 yards out of bounds, now it's 3rd and 9. Again, simple footwork, simple getting back into your drop. And yeah, if your offensive line protects better, you don't have these issues, but you get into your drop faster and you don't have that issue. And so that's something he's going to have to work on. Getting out of, from under center faster. Sense of urgency, getting rid of the football. Cleans that up, and I think it'll kind of trickle down to the rest of those cons and maybe help clean and alleviate those and make him a better passer of the football. I like Sean Mannion. I really liked him early on in his career. Then he got injured in 2012. Had a little bit of a quarterback controversy with him and Vaz. He was able to beat him out, take back over, had a career year in 2013. Look, he's a guy that reminds me, and Mike Mayock said this, and I think this is a very apt comparison, especially when you're talking size. Mike Glennon, another 6'6" quarterback that can throw the football. He reminds me a lot of Mike Glennon. If he's given an opportunity, I think that Sean Mannion could do some things at the next level. Love the pick, love the quarterback. I like the Rams selection here, and I like the thought process here. We saw that train wreck you had behind your starter last year in Sam Bradford. We saw the whole mess with Sean Hill and the other young fella that got in there and played about 6, 7 games. We don't want to do that again. And so this is a pick that maybe he didn't help you right away this year. And you're hoping that Nicholas Foles is the answer, to be honest. But if he's not, good to know that you drafted a young guy that you're going to develop. And hopefully, if all else fails, he'll be able to step in. It's a triple for me. Love the Sean Mannion pick in the 3rd round. And again, you got this pick from the Panthers. The way you acquired it, love everything about it. It's a triple for the Rams in the 3rd round. You move on to the 4th round, 129th overall selection. Offensive tackle out of Iowa, Andrew Donald. Now, Andrew Donald played opposite of another Iowa Hawkeye that came out of the draft this year as a big-time prospect in Brandon Sheriff. So you got one bookend tackle on one side, and Andrew Donald was supposed to be the other. His career didn't really turn out the way that he envisioned. Both of them came onto the Iowa campus at the same time. Both of them had an injury in 2012 to their ACLs. Both of them were supposed to be able to bounce back and anchor that offensive line. Brandon Sheriff did. Andrew Donald did not, however. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's a 6'6", 313-pound offensive lineman. So right there, you feel good about his size. He's very smart, okay? The thing that I loved about his tape was the amount of stunts and twists that teams ran to his side was ridiculous. I mean, it was almost as if they had seen a weakness on tape that said he couldn't pick up twists and stunts because there was so much passing off of defensive linemen and guys trying to stunt and blitz to his side, and he made it look easy. Pass a guy off, switch, pick the guy up, move him out of the way. They send a blitzer his way, try to send a stunt his way with the blitzer, pass a guy off, elbow another guy, pick up the blitzer. It was beautiful to watch him work as a pass protector in that instance. Very smart football player. Functional movement allows him to mirror. he's very mechanical. I don't like that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but it does allow him to mirror. You can tell the guys at Iowa coach him up, okay? They coach him up the right way, and his thing is he likes to have his hands in front, and he's just here. Wherever you go, he goes. He's like my buddy. My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy. Wherever he goes, we go. That was him. He was always shadowing the guy in front of him and not allowing him to beat him. And so I love the way he mirrors as an offensive tackle. Can get to the second level. Again, he didn't move laterally that well, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But if you're asking him to go vertical, you're asking him to go north and south, get up the field, get to the second level, clear out a defender for the running back, he can do that. And he did it a number of times at Iowa. To me, he's unaffected by the bull rush. Now, if you read his report and you hear other people talking about him, they say that he's susceptible to the bull rush. And that may be true, especially at the next level. But I didn't see it on tape. I saw a guy that held up more than adequately against the bull rush. In fact, I felt like he was unaffected by the bull rush. I thought he anchored well. I thought he held his own. I didn't see him getting driven back into the lap of the quarterback. I thought the thing that gave him problems was speed. I didn't think he struggled with bull rushes at all. So we go to his cons. He does not finish blocks consistently enough for me. Look, finishing as an offensive lineman is the name of the game. You can initially win, but if you do not finish the block, all the work you've done early on in the play goes in vain. Because you know what happens? If you don't finish, that defensive lineman is going to toss you aside when the ball carrier comes his way and get in on the tackle. If not, make the play himself. And so, even though you may have won initially, you may have gotten in front of him, gotten the leverage you need, turned inside and sealed him off. If you don't finish that block with aggression and authority, that defensive lineman will eventually, if he's good, will win the war. You may win the battle early on. He will win the war, toss you out of the way, and get in on the play. And for me, too many times, that's what happened to Andrew Donald at Iowa. He would win the battle early on, lose the war, guys would get in, make plays. Can't get to the reach block. Don't ask him to get to the reach block. I talked about his limited athleticism and agility going horizontally. He cannot move laterally. Don't ask him to get to that reach block. Don't ask him to get out, turn his body, turn his hips, and get in front of, he can't do it. He can't get in front of that defender. If he does anything, he's going to get a penalty. He's probably going to end up chopping him from behind, which is a penalty, or he's going to end up holding, trying to get there, can't get there. I saw him struggle with the reach block at Iowa. At 6'6", he will stand upright, and I think this is why you have a lot of people saying that he's going to struggle with the bull rush at the next level, because at 6'6", if you stand upright, I talked about him being mechanical, and this is the thing I do not like. This is one of the few things that really irks me about him is his inability, because the other stuff, those are limitations that he can't control, okay? He can't get to that reach block. He's not athletic enough to do it. That's not his fault. He just can't do it. This is something he can control. He's too mechanical. He's like a robot. He's got his hands up, and he's moving, and he's standing straight up. He's showing me all of his numbers. He wants someone, he's inviting someone to come in, jack him up, and at the next level. See, in the Big Ten, in college football, I don't know if the rushers were smart enough to pick up on what he was doing and take advantage of it. At the next level, these guys are technicians, these coaches, they watch the film very adeptly, and they know how to pick apart a guy's game, and if you have a weakness, they will exploit it, they will have their players exploit it. That could be a problem for him at the next level. We'll see. Nagging ACL injury, I talked about that at the top of his breakdown. He had an injury to his ACL in 2012. That injury was one that lingered into 2013, didn't allow him to really be the best football player he could be. Played all of the games in 2014, however, looked good, so hopefully that is behind him, but you just never know. Those ACLs can be very, very tricky. But for me, in the 4th round, Andrew Donald, for me, is a double. He's a solid pickup, a guy that I think right now I'm not going to be able to start for you. I think you've got enough depth there. He's going to compete, and I think he's going to make this roster, and he's going to be a swing tackle potentially Maybe not a swing tackle, maybe a swing tackle. Definitely can play right tackle for you. I don't think he's athletic enough to play left tackle at the next level. But again, in a pinch, you never know what's going to happen. And so he could be a guy that maybe has to step in and play some left tackle for you. I doubt it, but you know you got yourself a backup right tackle if all else fails in Andrew Donald out of Iowa. You go to the 6th round, 201st overall selection, another pick from that Carolina Panthers trade. So this was the gift that just keeps on giving in this draft. It's 6th round, 201st overall selection, wide receiver out of Missouri, Larry Bud Sasser. And so this is a guy that said, hey, nobody, even my parents, don't call me Larry. It's Bud to you, Bud. Cool, whatever. Bud Sasser, okay? Pros, long 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver. He uses his body and his length very well. I like that about him. He'll go up, he'll climb the ladder, which takes us to our next pro. High points to football. He'll go up, go get the football, use his body to shield off defenders. I love the way he uses his size and length to go and attack the football. Really good set of mix. His hands, really good. We don't see him drop a lot of passes. In fact, he makes some outstanding catches at Missouri. You turn on the tape and this guy wows you, and with some of the plays he's able to make, makes a lot of contested catches. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Really good set of mix here in Bud Sasser. Made plays in 2014. The reason I say that is because up until 2014, despite having played 2 years, 3 years of college football, he only had 2 touchdowns, okay? And even though he played 2 years of football prior to 2014, he only had 2 touchdowns. He only had about 600 yards receiving total in his career. And in 2014, he had a breakout season, 12 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards receiving. He was the man. And the reason why he had those type of numbers and had a breakout season is because he was the man. There was no Washington in front of him. There was no Dorial Green Beckham in front of him. He was the man at Missouri. And so he got an opportunity and he ran with that opportunity. And so I like Bud Sasser. I like him a lot. Let's talk about his cons. Sticky receiver. I talked about him making contested catches. The reason why he made a lot of contested catches, he doesn't get away from defenders very often. And so that takes us to our next con. Lacks elite explosiveness. He's not a guy that's going to blow you away with speed. He's a 4.5, 6 type of athlete, 4.53, somewhere in there, which isn't slow, but he doesn't run the crispest of routes. And so he's not gaining separation through route running. He's not an explosive athlete, so he's not running by guys by sheer athleticism. So it's going to be hard potentially. And I still saw him separate for some guys in college, but from the better athletes at the NFL level, he might have a tough time separating from sticky one-on-one man-to-man coverage. We shall see. It's up to him to find a way to either shield him off with his body or create separation through route running and make the difference there. Not aggressive in the run game as a blocker. You know how I am about my receivers rolling up the sleeves, getting their hands dirty, and helping out in the run game, especially for the bigger ones. You got a 5'8" receiver that's a slot guy, not really doing his job as a run blocker in the slot. Okay, whatever. We're talking about a 6'2", 210-pound receiver. I need you to get your hands dirty. I need you to help out in the run game. He doesn't do that aggressively enough for me. And so that's another knock for me on Bud Sasser. But all in all, big-time receiver at Missouri last season. When he got an opportunity, he ran with it. The thing that I don't like about the selection is I thought the Rams needed a #1 receiver. And I know you like Kenny Britt, and I know that the receiver you drafted a couple of years ago is having an excellent season till he hurt his shoulder and missed the rest of the season. I recognize all of those things. You still got Tavon Austin, but none of those guys strike me as a #1 receiver. I thought you needed to go out and get a #1 target that would allow everybody else to fit into their slots. To me, Bud Sasser is just another guy you throw into the mix and you say, hey, let's see who gets it done. And so even though I feel like he's got some potential, I don't think he has #1 potential, and that's what, to me, you needed. He's a double in the 6th round, Bud Sasser, wide receiver out of Missouri. Move on to the 6th round, second 6th round pick, 215th overall. guard out of Fresno State, Cody Wichman. Now, Cody Wichman is interesting, 6'6", 315-pound, physical offensive guard. Works well in a phone booth. I've talked about that already with a number of your offensive linemen to this point. He's a guy that works well in tight quarters and tight spaces. Don't ask him to go anywhere far away from the line of scrimmage. The further away you get from the line of scrimmage, the less and less effective this guy is. Unaffected by the bull rush. Saw him a number of times stonewall guys when protecting the quarterback. Adept at cut blocking. If you've ever seen Fresno State in any of their games dating back to Derek Carr, you know that this is a spread offense. Football comes out fairly quickly, so offensive linemen in that offense do a great job of cutting defenders so that they can't get their hands on the football because the ball's coming out so quick, they're not getting to the quarterback. So the next best thing, put your hands up. You get cut, can't put your hands up. So he's adept at cut blocks. His cons, very passive in pass pro. His pass protection leaves a lot to be desired, okay? And there are a number of times where I was not that impressed nor enamored with what he was doing in pass protection. He's a guy that waits for contact. He's not seeking contact enough. You know, there were guys that were unblocked. He'd be over helping the right tackle out. I don't need you to help the right tackle. He's fine over there. There's a free rusher here. Go and attack him. Don't help double team a guy that doesn't need to be helped. Go attack the unblocked man. He'd come in scot-free, forces an errant throw. You got problems. So I was not that impressed with his pass pro. Speed is a real issue for him. He's not athletic whatsoever. That's the next con. So couple those two together. Speed is a real problem for him, and he's not athletic whatsoever. So if you put the two together, you kind of see how that fits together like a puzzle. If you got a guy in front of him that can beat him with pure athleticism, he can't match it, he's in trouble. End of discussion. Provides depth. To me, the last con is he just provides depth. He can't start. To me, he doesn't have enough tools. Doesn't have enough elite traits to be a starter at the next level. To me, he's a guy that if he makes a roster, keep in mind this is a 6th round pick we're talking about here, folks. So there's no guarantees at all. So he could easily not make this roster, but if he does, to me, it's only for depth. He can't start, and to me, he could only translate as a guard. Maybe he could play center. He'd have to learn because he didn't play center at Fresno State, but another solid guy that's a phone booth brawler. Again, the Rams are just looking to get physical. Let's get physical, physical. They're looking to get physical. There's no secret. They've minced no words here. They've pulled no punches. They're looking to get physical. They said the rest of the division is physical on the offensive side. They control the line of scrimmage on the offensive and defensive side. Well, we can control the defensive line of scrimmage. We need to control the offensive line of scrimmage. And they're trying to do it again with another pick like Cody Wichman out of Fresno State. Problem is, he is limited. And for that, for me, he is a single in the 6th round. You go to the 7th round, 224th overall selection. Inside linebacker out of Baylor, Bryce Hager. This is an intriguing prospect here because I figured this would be a guy that could do one of two things. He could either run really fast and be a coverage linebacker, or he's going to be a thumper downhill. Let's talk about it. Good movement skills, okay? He's very athletic. He's a 4'6", 40 flat guy, so he can run, okay? This white boy can run at 6'1", 234 pounds. He can pick him up and put him down. Physical tackler. Now, there's a play against Michigan State. There's a couple actually where he flat out lays the guy out right by the end zone, okay? Play before. He's late to the party. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. He's late to the party, misses the running back. Kendall Langford comes out the other side of the hole. Or Langford, I think his name is Jeremy Langford, the running back from Michigan State that was selected by the Bears. Comes out the other side, takes off. They tackle him down at about the 2-yard line. That was about a 45, 50-yard gain on that play. The next play, Bryce Hager destroys him at the goal line. Flattens him. Just absolutely stonewalls him, okay? So that's what he can do. He can offer that. He's a very physical tackler. He's a read and react linebacker. Now, For some of you, that's a problem. For me, it's not a problem. I like my linebackers to be a little bit more aggressive. Read and react linebackers, they have to see it, they have to process it, internalize it, then they go. Okay? They gotta see it to believe it, then they go. Which is fine, because with that, a lot of times you get a guy that doesn't overcommit. You get a guy that won't be sucked in by play action fake because he's sitting there. Is that a fake or is that a run? Okay, it's a fake. You didn't get me. All right. Now, because of that, that running back might get an extra yard or two because he didn't meet him in the gap soon enough to prevent him from picking up 4 yards on the play. But that's the trade-off you have from an instinctive linebacker versus a read and react linebacker. He's a read and react guy. Okay, fine, cool. So you go to his cons. Always late to the party. Always. He's the guy that shows up, got the 12 pack in his hand. All right, where the party at? Either it's the wrong house or the party's over. Everybody's laid out drunk. Nobody's partying. Music stopped. He shows up. He's got the 12 pack. He's ready to go. Everybody's already down for the count. He's always late to the party, man. That was so frustrating watching the tape. He was always 1 or 2 steps behind the play. And that's where that read and react stuff can get you in trouble. He was never on time. Never on time. Undersized inside linebacker. And I say this kind of tongue-in-cheek because you look around, I mean, Denzel Perryman, what is he, 5'11", 236? This guy's 6'1", 234. I mean, what are we talking about here? So, really, I want to say he's an undersized inside linebacker, which he really is, but in this day and age, guys are getting smaller, they're getting faster, but you still got to be physical. Still got to have a little bit of weight in the trunks. And that's where I think the difference is between Denzel Perryman and this guy. Denzel Perryman, he ain't afraid. He's not scary though. This guy, I'm not saying he's scared, but he's not taking on, 315-pound guards that's coming his way. That's not what he's doing. Out of position too often. And speaking of which, not taking on guards and being where you're supposed to be, he's out of position way too much for me. Overrunning plays, he's late to the party. It's not a lot that I like here watching the tape with Bryce Hager. In fact, he's a single in the 7th round. If he's going to make this team, he's going to make it on special teams. He better have an impact there, because from what I've seen on tape, this was not an impressive guy that's going to come in and help. Right there are some qualities here to like. They're really good qualities, but I don't see them enough to make me feel comfortable about this guy in the 7th round. You go to the final pick in the Rams draft, 7th round, 227th selection overall, defensive end out of Memphis, Martin Afidi. Now, Martin Afidi is another interesting prospect, and I'll tell you why a little bit later on. Let's talk about his pros. First things first, 6'3", 275-pound defensive end, and this is a guy that has great hand usage for his size. That's probably his best attribute, is the way that he uses his hands. It helps him in ways you cannot imagine. Relentless motor. He's a guy that doesn't give up on plays. Sometimes that's the reason why he gets to the quarterback. Sometimes that's why he gets to the ball carrier. He's a guy with a relentless motor, and it helps him in ways you can't imagine. Stout at the point of attack, okay? He's a guy that is very stout at the point of attack. You don't see him getting blown off the football very often. He holds his own in the run game, and you can appreciate that for a guy that plays for a school like Memphis. And he helped turn that program around. And so he's very stout at the point of attack. Great production at Memphis. And just to throw this in there too, very versatile. At Memphis, played all along their defensive line, played the 5 technique, played the 3 technique. So you talk about a guy with versatility. He played the 3-4 at Memphis. He was a guy that played all up and down that defensive line. So versatility is big, and he was able to set the school record for most sacks. So his production at Memphis was huge. 22.5 career sacks at Memphis, including, I want to say, an 11.5 sack season in 2013. So he can get to the quarterback when he's on. He's really good. Dealt with an injury in 2014. So watching him on tape, I took it with a grain of salt. He didn't seem like the same player that I saw in 2013. He looked more spry and vibrant in 2013. You watch 2014 tape, not as much. So I can kind of understand what's going on there. They took him out of the game quite often. So it all makes sense when you find out the background behind him in 2014, where he only had 2.5 sacks on the season versus 11.5 the prior season. his cons. He's a tweener, and this is why I said this pick was intriguing for me. For the Rams, I look at the Rams, I look at their defensive ends, and I see Chris Long, and I see the mighty Quinn on the other side, and I think to myself, hell, even Aaron Donald, never ever trust a man with 2 first names. And I look around, I see all these guys that are smaller guys. And when I say smaller, I'm not talking 230 pounds. We're talking about defenders in the 250s and in the 260s. This guy's 275 pounds. I told you he was a 3 technique. He was a 5 technique at Memphis in a 3-4 defense. You play a 4-3 defense. What is he? To me, I don't know what they have in mind. I'm thinking they want him to be another one of these Aaron Donald type cats. Never ever trust a man with 2 first names. Type of undersized defensive tackles that they can slide inside, maybe in nickel situations, and have him help them there. I don't know if they have defensive end plans for him or not. We will see. I could be wrong, and they could be looking for him to come in, set the edge in the run game on 1st and 2nd down and help them with that. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what their plans are for him if he makes the roster. He's very raw. And here's why he's very raw. No catalog of moves. Those 22.5 sacks, I didn't see all of them. Okay, I didn't see most of them. But I can assure you this. Most of them probably came off of great hand usage or quickness off the snap. There weren't spins. There wasn't an elite, bull rush or speed to power. There wasn't an elite speed. None of that, okay? There isn't an outside, back inside move. It's a lot of brute force and a lot of hand usage, hand fighting, and a lot of quickness off the snap. He wins. He knows it's a pass, jumps the snap count, tackle didn't get out of his stance quick enough, able to use their hands to knock down the hands of the tackle who's trying to recover, gets to the quarterback. I bet you there's a lot of that going on. Because from what I saw, that was the only way he was winning. His frame is maxed out. Now again, I don't know, can't say that that's 100% true, but from what I'm reading, what I'm hearing, his max, he worked hard to get up to 275 pounds, which to me means if he worked hard to get there, maybe he can lose a couple pounds and be a defensive end in the mold of what the Rams already have. That makes a lot more sense to me than him gaining another 5 or 10 pounds and being an Aaron Donald, never ever trust a man with 2 first names type at defensive tackle. Like I said, they said his frame is maxed out. He can't put on any more weight, so at 275, that's as high as he can get. So I don't know what the Rams have in store for this guy, but to me, intriguing prospect nonetheless. Martin Afidi. For me, the reason why this is a double is because the Rams have done wonders with defensive linemen. Throw him in the mix. I'm interested to see what happens. First, he's got to make the team. Second of all, if he does make the team, what do the Rams have in store for him? I like the pick. I like the production at college. I like the fact that he's a St. Louis Ram because they get it done along the defensive line. It's a double for me to wrap up the St. Louis Rams 2015 NFL Draft. So let's look at what they were able to accomplish as we try and tally up these scores. You start with the home run of Todd Gurley in the first round. That's a 4, followed by 3 triples in the draft, which lands them a triples bonus. Then they had 3 doubles, which landed them in a doubles bonus. Then they had 2 singles, which you add that all up, you get 26 points for the St. Louis Rams. You divide it by their 9 selections, comes out to a 2.9. It's essentially a triple, but I'm not giving out any freebies. It's a 2.9 double for the St. Louis Rams. They almost made it to third base. They tried. They got tagged out right before the plate, but hey, it's all cool though. Or right before the base. It's all good though. Still damn near triple, 2.9. Not half bad at all for a 9-player haul, if I may say so myself. A lot of good picks, a lot of intriguing picks. We see what the Rams are doing here. They're trying to take over that division by brute force. They got a new quarterback. They want to protect him. They got a new running back. They want to open up lanes for him. They're going to be a scary team. If these linemen pan out with the guys that they already have, like a Greg Robinson, if Roger Saffold stays healthy, and they start to put the pieces into the puzzle where they fit, and they get guys to come in and help right away, this is a team that could be scary in the NFC West. You just watch and see. It's going to do it for the St. Louis Rams in their 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. See you next time. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In The Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.
Mm-hmm.